Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's hearing. Before we begin, I need to say something. The inquiry is aware of the offensive video that was posted online yesterday. It must be shocking and distressing to all those involved, whatever way their involvement, whatever form their involvement took, whether as bereaved, survivors, or indeed members of the wider community. I'm very pleased to hear that the authorities are taking the matter very seriously and that investigation is underway. Thank you. Now, Mr. Millett.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our next witness is Mr. Nicholas Burton.
Good, thank you.
I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Burton. Sit down and make yourself comfortable there. Yes, Mr. Burton.
Mr. Burton, good morning.
Good morning.
Can I ask you, please, to give the inquiry your full name?
Yeah, my name is Nicholas Trevanion Burton.
And can I start by thanking you very much for coming here and giving evidence to the inquiry? It's immensely appreciated, your contribution is very valuable to us. It will not be easy for you to relive the events of that terrible night. So if at any time you feel you need a break, you want me to stop for a few minutes, I'm very happy to do that. We will aim to sit for no longer than an hour at a time to give you a proper chance to have a break and to relax for a moment.
Thank you.
I should just also say this. Sometimes when you're answering my questions, it may look as if I'm not listening to you because I'm looking at the screen or my notes. I am very much listening to what you're saying, and it's just that I have to follow it sometimes on the screen.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, you've done a witness statement for the inquiry, which is IWS 64. And can I please ask that that be put on the screen in front of you? You'll have it in two places, either in the paper folder in front of you there on the desk or on the monitor on your desk to the right. Whichever's easiest for you to follow in, we can go with that. Okay. My first question is that the first page of your witness statement?
Yes, it is.
Can I ask you please to turn to page 22? You'll see a statement of truth with a signature underneath it over the date at the bottom of the 24th of April 2018. Is that your signature?
Correct, that's my signature.
Have you had an opportunity to read this statement recently?
Yes, I have.
And can you confirm that its contents are true?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Now, there are two exhibits to it. The first, which is NTB1, with an inquiry reference of IWS 63, is a floor plan of flat 165. If we could just have that on the screen, please. Is that your first exhibit?
Yes, it is.
That's flat 165.
Yeah.
And the second is NTB2, which is IWS 65, which I think is your LAS record from the 14th of June 2017.
Yeah, the ambulance record, yes.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Now, can I start by asking you a number of background questions? On page 1 of your statement, you say, and I'm summarising, in June, or as at June 2017, you lived at flat 165 Grenfell Tower with your wife, Maria del Pilar Burton.
Yes, I did.
And as I think you tell us in paragraph 2, she was the original tenant of flat 165.
Yes, I think nobody else ever lived in that flat.
No.
So she moved in, I don't know the date, but early when the flats were built.
Yes, you say in your statement about 1975.
Yeah, that's an estimate. She told me that she was the first person in that flat when it was new.
Right.
So.
And I think you both purchased the flat as leaseholders in 1994.
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
And as a leaseholder, were you a member of the Grenfell Tower Leaseholders Association?
Yes, I was. We made an association to communicate between ourselves and to help each other.
Yes. As at June 2017, Mr. Burton, were you yourself in good health?
Yes, I was in.
And was your wife in good health at the time?
Not at the time. My wife was sick for a few years, and she was suffering with dementia.
Now, can I ask you about some aspects of fire safety awareness? Now, you cover these in your statement at paragraph 59, which is on page 16 of your statement. At subparagraph 7, just towards the top of the page. And you say, I remember that there were notices regarding fire safety when I moved in the 1980s. There was a plaque next to the notice board, which was a safety notice, and said, do not use the lifts in the event of a fire. Just pausing there, can I ask you to be shown IWS quintuple 0500?
Yeah.
Do you recognise this?
I do, yes.
Is that the plaque that you're referring to?
That is definitely the plaque that I was referring to, yes.
Right. And do you remember where that plaque was situated?
Yes, it was in the main lobby area opposite the lifts on the back wall.
Was it anywhere else in the tower?
Not that I remember. I just remember it being on that wall, on all the floors.
How long was it there for? Let me try that one again. When did it disappear?
It probably disappeared when they. I don't know what year they decorated the lobby area, and they put up a metal plastic information board which never had any information on it, and that was kind of either bolted on top or they may have removed that and then put that against the wall. So just facing, the doors of the lift.
Was that before the most recent refurbishment?
Oh yeah, this was years ago.
Oh, I see. Right.
It's when they tiled the lobby area.
So a refurbishment prior to the most recent one?
Yeah, they did some work years ago and just made nice lino and coloured tiles.
Do you remember what this plaque was replaced with, so far as fire safety information is concerned?
No, it wasn't actually replaced. It was just the board was just put on top of it.
Right.
So I don't remember any other fire safety aspects after that.
Was there a time then, or a period, during which there was no fire safety information posted publicly in Grenfell Tower?
Yeah, I didn't notice any more information. There may have been. The only other one, maybe there might have been a little red plaque, maybe saying dry riser on one end, but I can't be sure of that.
Okay. Can I ask you please to be shown INQ 6093? Have you ever seen this sign before in Grenfell Tower?
Yeah, I've seen this sign.
Where?
It was on, if I was looking at the lifts, both the lift doors, it was on the left-hand side. It was a new sticker they put maybe a few months before. They stuck it on the wall after the refurbishment.
Was it on your floor?
It was on my floor.
On other floors?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about in the lobby?
I think in the main lobby where the lifts are on the ground floor, I think it may have been there as well.
Right.
I can't, say 100%, but I guess it would be there if they've put it on all the floors to give people information, or it may have been on the board. There was a board on the ground floor where the lifts are. There was an information board. There was information there, and it may have been on there as well.
Now you say that it was a new sticker that they put maybe a few months before. They
Yeah.
stuck it on the wall. Can we put some timing on that? You say a few months before. A few months before what?
But definitely within 2017.
During 2017?
Yes.
Now, before 2017, was there any fire safety information publicly posted in Grenfell Tower that you can remember?
Not that I can remember. They may have put something on the board down on the ground floor, but I can't
Right.
necessarily see anything that was in the communal area, especially when they built the new cupboards to house the pipes for the water.
Did you ever read this notice?
Yes, I've read it. I'm quite curious about things.
Right. What was your takeaway message from it?
It's just about, there's a fire safety notice to say there's a fire to stay put in your flat, and so it was just like telling us, stay put, really,
Right.
or what to do if there was a fire. So there was a bit that says leave the building, please.
Apart from this notice, were you aware of any information from any organisation or any individual about what you should do if there was a fire anywhere in the block?
I can't remember specific kind of conversations. I've had conversations with fire officers in the past. There's been fires. There's been a fire on my floor, on the old 16th floor to the 19th floor. There's been a fire on my actual floor, so I probably had a conversation, and they may have given us an information pack. They did not may have. They gave us an information pack one time, the TMO, and they had little booklets and everything in there, but that probably just got put in the cupboard and never to reveal itself again.
Okay.
But my understanding is that I would stay in my flat, because there was no way that a fire could get into the flat unless it's in your flat at the time.
Now, you mentioned a moment ago, you said old 16th floor, the 19th floor. I could take this question out of order, but let me do it anyway. Do you remember whether after the refurbishment, when the floor numbers were changed,
Yeah.
the numbering in the stairwell changed?
Yes, it did. Yeah, they put what I can describe as dodgy stencils, and some of them were over the top of other numbers. You'd think that you'd had a £10 million refurbishment, that you would, make sure that the stairs have been painted and nice, but they left all of that and then just put. It was very confusing for everybody, especially maybe for the fire department on the night of the fire. The confusion was because in the old days it was like my flat was 165, so that means 16th floor, flat 5.
Yeah.
It's simple, the numbers. But then to be told that now on the 19th floor was very confusing for everybody.
And did the stencils on the wall of the stairwell on each floor accurately identify the floor number as at the night of the fire?
I think so. I mean, I think I've actually, because I've walked up and down those stairs a lot. The lifts are out. You've got shopping, and you're probably cursing on all the way up to the 19th floor. And I may remember that some of the floors maybe didn't even have numbers, or they didn't do it correctly. But I think mine had 19th floor.
Yours had 19, did it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
Right, and you refer to the stencils as dodgy. Why do you say that?
Because it's, I believe they just had this major refurbishment. They could have decorated the stairwell. It was just, in a much. They didn't do nothing to the stairwell, and I think it just looked very tacky on the wall. It wasn't, a clear sign, saying this is the 19th floor. It was just a kind of black stencil that someone may have just sprayed on.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't they weren't that creative.
Did you have any trouble seeing it, though?
Not necessarily. No.
At page 16 of your statement, while we're still on it, can I ask you to look at paragraph 10? You say there, in the second line, we used to have an old fire panel which would show which flat the fire alarm was coming from, and we used to have a concierge downstairs. The new fire panel didn't show where the fire was or where the alarm was coming from. This was a concern. And you also go on to say that you observed the fire brigade having problems accessing the tower. I had to let them into the tower
several
on
times.
2 occasions. Yes. Now, just on that, where was the old panel located?
Yeah, originally on the ground floor.
Thanks.
And there's a big fire panel with just little lights, so if an alarm went off in the tower, the fire brigade could just come in, see which floor, and then go straight to the to deal with where the alarm was going off. After the refurbishment, they moved that panel to the second floor where the walkways, where you could get out to the walkway before they blocked that off. And then they took it all away, and then there was this, as you go into the atrium of the building, on the left-hand side before the second door to get to the lifts, there was a little red box panel which nobody knew what it was. So the couple of times that the fire brigade arrived at the tower when I was down walking my dog, I had to give them entrance to the tower, and at one time they asked me, where's the fire panel? And I said, is this the box? And they said, no, that's not it. And then went through to the next door, and then we were there like trying to look where the fire panel was, where the dry riser was, and where the, it was very difficult for the fire brigade to understand. And as I was talking to them, they said that they actually weren't from North Kensington, our local. They were from another, I don't know where. I know one of the fire officers during this inquiry hinted about he was one of the officers there. I don't know what station he was from.
Right.
And I just didn't know where, if the fire officers wanted to know information straight away of where the alarm was going off. I just remember them sending somebody up the stairs.
Right.
So they probably have to go to every floor.
When you refer to the old alarm, was it a general all-building alarm, or was the alarm limited to the floor or flat where the fire was?
Actually, I'm not too sure, because I don't actually remember the alarm actually going off. So he was looking for the alarm, but I don't remember being downstairs and the alarm actually going off that I could hear.
Okay.
And this is just a few months, before the fire.
Right. And the new panel, I think you were saying, was located, when they moved it, to the second floor.
That was just during the refurbishment. So they did the atrium, and then I remember them moving it to the second floor before they built a flat there. I remember it being there one day, and then of course they had to build a new flat. They built 9 new flats on the first 3 levels, and then they had to take it away. So I don't know.
Where did it end up?
Well, I just think it was that little box that was next to the second door as you go into the tower.
Right.
But it was a completely different system. The old box was a massive box with lots of lights and everything, and but this was just a little red box with no indication of anything. I didn't know what it was for, really.
When you say a little red box, do you mean a box on the wall to the right of the door leading into the community room?
Yes, there was a community room with big plaque saying community room,
right.
And just right of that there was a little red box. I did have a little look at it, but I couldn't even make it out myself.
No. Okay. Can I then just go back to the question of fire safety advice? Do you remember receiving a newsletter from the TMO and Ryden during the refurbishment which contained advice about fire safety?
No, I don't remember.
Let me see if I can jog your recollection then.
Sure.
Can the witness please be shown ART quadruple 2606? That's ART quadruple 2606. Well, maybe
Sure we've got that, Mr.
we
Miller.
may not have, which surprises me somewhat. All right, well, we'll come back to that after the break. It can be taken as it stands. Can I ask you then to turn to page 18 and look at the top of that page, subparagraph 16, where you discuss the question of doors. And you say there, we had to close the front door. It was not self-closing. It was a good front door. Did you ever change the door after you'd moved in?
No, it was
Right. Was the door ever self-closing?
no, nobody.
Did the TMO or RBKC ever tell you that your front door had to be self-closing?
Actually, I may have had a discussion. I think that was when I went and asked about the doors, because they didn't actually give us. They did the refurbishment on the doors before the major refurbishment, and I went down to the office and said, "Excuse me, you haven't, come to us and give us a door." So, but there may have been a discussion that when I asked them why I wasn't getting a door, they said, "You're a leaseholder, you have to buy your own door." And there may have been a discussion about maybe the fire regulations and our door was not the right door, but our doors were much more solid and stern than the doors that they were replaced with. So I think there may have been a discussion. I'm not too sure about them telling me it has to be a self-closing door.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember who the discussion was with?
I don't know who was in charge then. I don't know whether it was Siobhan or a lady called Siobhan. I'm not too sure who the discussion was with.
Was that Siobhan Rumble?
So, yeah, we had many rumbles. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But they wanted to charge myself, my wife and I, £1,000. They said we could have a door, but they would charge us £1,000. So I just declined.
Now, you also say in the next subparagraph that your old front door was a fire door. That's 3 lines up from the bottom of
Yeah.
that subparagraph. How did you know it was a fire door?
Because it was a sturdy, heavy, 3-hinge door.
Right. So it was your assumption it was a fire door. Did you see any documents saying it's a fire door?
No, I didn't see no documents at all.
Now, in subparagraph 19, a little bit lower down the page, middle of the page, in fact, you say the door did not have a draft seal on it already, but I had put on a little strip to seal it myself. Where did you put the strip?
Just on the base.
On the base.
Yeah. Just
And why did you need to do that?
Actually, yeah, that was a long time ago. Just to make sure that any air coming through the base, but I'm sure that came off when I put wooden flooring in the corridor.
Right. And having done that, did the door have any gaps around it?
No gaps,
No drafts coming in?
no drafts coming in. I don't even remember there was a draft coming in when I put the strip. So.
Sticking with page 18, you say at paragraph 59, at the bottom, sorry, at paragraph 5921 at the bottom, extractor fans, and you discuss the extractor fan in the bathroom and the one in the kitchen, which came at the time of the refurbishment.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any trouble with the extractor fan?
The one in the bathroom, no trouble. There was no kind of extraction. It was just on the ceiling, and they just pulled out the old one and popped a new one, and it never really sucked in any air or anything. The one in the kitchen, a lot of problems. First of all, they
elaborate.
Yeah, they came, they put the extractor fan, put all the electrics, because it wasn't automatic. You had to press a little button, but it just made so much noise. There was, I think, nearly everybody had the problem of when the wind came up. It was this crazy noise, and they had to come and make a solution to fit a widget or something in to stop the fan making that noise. And it was very loud. It was very annoying.
Going over the page, or to page 19, at subparagraph 22, you deal with the question of smell and noise, and 5 lines up from the bottom of that paragraph, you say, it was cold after the refurbishment, even though we were told that the flats would be much warmer. I had to buy slippers for the first time. The flats were very hot before the refurbishment. However, once the new radiator system was installed and they took the underfloor heating away, it was very different and cold. Could you identify a source for the cold?
Well, it was in 2 parts. Around the windows, it was colder, but also before we used to have underfloor heating. So a lot of the winters I didn't even put the radiators on because the heat comes up through the tower, and our flats was always very, very warm. So when they put new radiators in and new windows and everything, the flat was much colder, and I had to go and buy a pair of slippers, but it was much colder. There was none of that nice warm heat that we used to have, like in the living room and the kitchen corridor where the hot water pipes used to be, and they didn't take out the old hot water pipes. They just stopped filling them with water because they didn't want to drill into the concrete. So the flat was cold.
Just focusing on the windows in that last answer, can you just tell me a little bit more about how the windows after the refurbishment were a source of cold in your flat?
Yeah, it's just the way they put the windows in. There was cheap the cheap plastic, and they just did everything in a hurry, and just around the window, it just felt much cooler. The old windows weren't that great. They were like single pane, and they used to have little tiny vents. And I used to put like paper in there during the winter to stop the wind coming through. But I'd thought that this new double glazing would be better, but it wasn't necessarily better.
Well, just focusing a bit more on that, at the bottom of page 19, paragraph 25 on that page, subparagraph 25, you say windows. I remember that there was a small draft that would come through the windows before the refurbishment. Yeah. The old windows had little vents and the wind would whistle through. The new windows had better seals, but I remember the keys would always fall out of the lock barrel, which was an issue. And you go on to discuss the plastic. After the refurbishment, was there any breeze or air that you felt coming through or around the windows?
Not necessarily breeze, but it was just cooler. It was just the touch the plastic and it'd be cooler, and I could tell that I was thinking in my mind that these are brand new windows and they must be the cheapest ones, because we had kind of the barrel where the locks that came out. I've had to go down, ask the people to come and fix the barrels of the window. And I was thinking the old windows lasted like 40 years or more, and in these windows, 5 minutes the barrel's already fallen out, and the how cheap. I mean, it looked okay. It looked, but it was just cheap plastic, and I knew that the day one of my friends had a cigarette and dropped a bit of ash from a cigarette, and it left a brown mark. So that kind of set off not necessarily alarm bells, but I was just thinking, this is not going to last.
Yeah. But my focus of my question is really whether you could feel air coming in through
not necessarily
frames of the windows.
I couldn't actually feel any kind of breezes coming through on my windows.
Right.
Very much. No.
Okay. Can I then turn to the events of the night of 13th and 14th of June 2017? Now, just in general terms, on that night, I think it was just you and Pilly in the flat.
That's correct, and my dog.
And the dog. And I think you say on page 2 of your statement, at paragraph 9, we don't need to go to it, that you'd fallen asleep on the sofa in your living room watching a film.
Yes.
And was Pilly asleep as well?
Yeah, Pilly was asleep on the sofa, and I was actually just resting against the sofa on the floor.
Right. And then at page 3 of your statement, paragraph 11, if you could just be shown that, you say, I was woken by a loud banging at my door. It was just bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And you go on to say, later, indeed, within a very short time, as to which see below, I assumed that it was a neighbour who banged on my door, trying to make sure I was awake and knew about the fire. Was that your assumption at the time, when you were woken up by the banging? Did you think it was a neighbour?
I was woken up by the banging, and I had to go investigate what the banging was.
And at that point, when you woke up, could you smell anything particular?
No.
Okay. Now,
well, I mean, there was because I got up quickly, just jump up. But I don't know whether there was, a smell of burning or anything. I can't remember that.
and you went straight to your front door, did you?
Yes.
And you opened it.
I opened it.
And Helen Gebremeskel was there, was she?
Sorry?
Who was there?
Nobody was there.
Nobody was there.
Yeah, nobody was there. I was just confronted by a wall of acrid black smoke.
Not a firefighter, at any rate.
No.
Now, at page 3 of your statement, paragraph 10, you say, I cannot recall what time I was woken and first became aware of the fire. And you say you don't recall looking at your watch. I've recently become aware that the first of my 2 999 calls was at about 1:56 a.m. And we'll come to that. And then you piece it together and you say, I don't think less than 25 minutes or more than 35 minutes passed by, so I think I was woken between 1:20 a.m. but not later than about 1:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that the time range is 25 to 35 minutes?
I'm not too sure. I didn't look at my watch at any time since I woke up. Even though I had my watch on, I didn't look at. So I didn't know exactly what the time was. I was just guessing that. That was the range of times that was. So right. Until I found out what time my call was to the fire brigade. So. I have no timelines of anything. If you ask me this minute, that minute, I don't know anything.
Okay. Now, you say you went to the front door and there was nobody there.
Nobody there.
And you opened it?
Yes, I did. And
you noticed a burning smell at that stage?
Well, I was in shock when I opened the door because I couldn't see anything. There's a wall, just a metre or metre and a half. Yeah. In front of us, usually a white wall, which is the encasing of the lift, and I couldn't even see that. It was just total darkness, and the smoke just came rushing into the flat. Before
you opened the front door, as you tell us, I think in paragraph 12, you'd noticed a burning smell as you arrived in the corridor of your flat.
Yeah.
It smelt. You say it was not more serious than the smell of burning toast. What did it actually smell like at that stage?
This smells like something was burning. I mean, I can't actually say that it was a chemical or was plastic or it was just a burn smell. You knew that something was burning, but I couldn't actually, tell you exactly what it smelled like.
And you say in the next paragraph, you were met when you opened the door by what I can only describe as a thick black wall of smoke. It was in the corridor, and the smoke immediately started to come in from the corridor inside the entrance way of my flat.
Yeah.
The smoke was so thick I couldn't see the wall opposite my front door, which is only about a metre away. Did you hear anything in the lobby?
In the lobby, not at that time. I remember a noise afterwards when we went out into the corridor, but that was just a whining noise. It wasn't like a fire alarm. You'd think a fire alarm would wake everybody up, and that traditional sound of ding 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 ding. No, it wasn't like that. It was more of a wailing, whining noise. But that was afterwards. I remember that. I don't remember any noise in particular the first time.
So the wailing, whining noise, which I'm interested in, you didn't hear at this stage, but you did hear later. Did you hear it when you eventually evacuated?
I heard that when I eventually evacuated.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't register initially the first time.
Right. Did you call out into the lobby?
Yeah, so hello, because someone just banged on our door. So yes, hello, and nothing,
No response.
no response.
Now, and it's difficult, but did you get any kind of impression about where the smoke was coming from?
No, initially I was in shock, but kind of probably maybe registered in my mind that it might have been next door or something, because the smoke was there.
Yeah.
And I had no initial reasoning to why a smoke would come from any other part of the building.
Were you able to smell the smoke?
Yes, of course. It has a smell.
What was the smell?
Just of burning. It was smoke. So, but I couldn't say it was a plastic or it was an organic smell or. Yeah, that didn't necessarily register in my nostrils. What it was. It just knew that something was burning, and there's smoke. So your senses are just telling you like that. But I didn't kind of analyse I didn't sit down and analyse and say, oh, it smells like this or smells like that.
Okay, but it made no general impression on you about what it might be, apart from the fact that it was smoke.
No, not initially. I was just a bit more confused why it was there rather than what was burning. Yeah.
In that short time, did you notice anything about the temperature in the lobby?
Not initially then, no.
Now, at paragraph 14, at the bottom of page 3 of your statement, you say, I noticed no kind of light in the corridor or any sound of an alarm. All I remember hearing was a faint whirring noise, almost a background noise. Now, in your statement, you've said you can hear a whirring noise.
Yeah. Whirring. Yeah.
Looking back on it now, is that right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, so the noise, some sort of whirring noise did register with you at the time, at least when you did your statement.
When I did my statement, yeah. So if I remember, but to truly register in my brain, I just remember when we came out into the smoke. That was much more evident in my recollection.
Yes, I follow. Going back to the first sentence of that paragraph, you say, I noticed no kind of light in the corridor. Would the lights in the corridor normally be on in the middle of the night?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be very bright. There's also be emergency lighting. There was emergency lighting next to my door.
Yes.
And they removed the emergency lighting and put one next to our door. And it would have been bright and light, but I just saw nothing. It was just intense black smoke, like if you set a tyre on fire.
Page 4, if you just go over the page, and you say at the top of that page at paragraph 15, I do not believe that I opened the door for more than a couple of seconds, and after I slammed the door shut, I noticed there was a haze of smoke left in the entranceway of the flat. and some of it had got into the corridor leading to the living room. It was quite a thin haze of smoke. And then you go on to describe the density of the smoke by reference to the pictures that we provided, the inquiry provided to you. Did the smoke continue to come in to the flat after you'd closed the door?
No, I don't believe so.
And again, did you get a chance of smelling the smoke at that stage?
Yeah, because you can smell it. There was, it was now like hovering on the ceiling, so you had a inkling that there was a burnt, smoke.
And in that moment when you saw that there was smoke which had come into your flat from the lobby outside, did you have any thoughts about what you should do next?
Not necessarily at that time, but yeah, I just thought then I said, oh, something's happened, and then I made a decision to, wake my wife up to tell her.
And you didn't attempt to leave the flat at that stage?
No.
And can you just tell us why you didn't think at that stage, I must leave?
Because
we must leave.
Yeah, I just thought that over all the years, before the refurbishment, that the flats would be okay. We're in a compartment and it will be safe, and we'll have fire doors, and they're meant to be for 60 minutes, and the fire brigade will come and deal with any initial fire that was necessarily I thought it was on my floor at the beginning. Only after several phone calls from a friend I realised it was something different. But I just thought we would be safe in our flat because it's solid concrete.
And then you go on to explain what measures you took to protect yourselves, paragraphs 19 onwards. During that period, going back and waking up Hilly and getting towels, was any more smoke coming in?
Not that I can remember, no, but I did get some towels. I did that straight away before I actually went and woke my wife up. Just went to the bathroom, put the bath on, just threw some towels in there, and then put one across the bottom of the main door.
And when you put one across the bottom of the main door, was there any smoke beginning to come in at that stage, or was it clear?
Not that I noticed, no.
Just a question about the running the bath. Did you notice any change in the water pressure that you...
No.
In comparison?
I didn't.
No. Now, paragraph 24 of your statement on page 5, you explain the process. You say you'd woken up Pilly and took her back to the living room, and you say this process was not hurried, as I knew that we would have to wait some time for rescue. Can I just ask you, why did you think that?
Because I started getting phone calls from my friend Simon, and he was just asking me to leave the flat, but on consideration I thought it was too dangerous to go into the main lobby with my wife because she was very frail.
And you hadn't called 999 by that point?
No.
What made you believe that the LFB would be coming to your flat to rescue you and Pilly?
Because in the beginning I didn't know the extent of what was actually happening to us or to everybody. So I just thought if there's someone will come up, the fire officers will deal with wherever the smoke was or the fire, and they'll knock on our door and say, are you okay? So that was my hunch.
Did you form any impression in your own mind at that time as to how long that might take?
Yeah, I thought it would take quite a short time. Usually the local fire brigade are very close by, and if the fire was on my floor, then I would get a knock saying, "Are you okay? We're sorry. We've dealt with with the fire.
Yes. Then paragraph 24, continuing with it, you go on to say, it was obvious that I could not leave on my own with Pilly because she was simply too frail for me to be able to manage getting her down and out of the tower on my own. And then you say, I was aware we would not be able to use the lifts in the tower, and I just could not be confident about getting her out safely on my own via the stairs, particularly due to the thickness of the smoke and her frailty. I just want to ask you about the thickness of the smoke in that part of your sentence there. What did you know at that time about the smoke conditions in the stairs?
I didn't know anything.
So the thickness of the smoke, was that the thickness of the smoke in the lobby?
In the lobby, the lift
you'd
lobby,
seen?
yeah. It may have registered in the back of my mind that if we can get to the stairwell, that we'll be okay. But it was just so thick, you know, it would have panicked my wife.
No, I understand. Now, you referred a minute ago to contacts, telephone calls from your friend.
Yeah.
That's Simon Jolly,
Simon Jolly, yes.
and he lived nearby, I think.
In Barrington Walk.
Now, you had a number of calls with him, I think, before you called 999.
Yes, I did, yes.
During those calls, did Simon Jolly pass any advice on to you?
Yeah, initially he said there's a fire in the tower, and then the calls got more and more, you know, distressed, and he was like screaming at me like, "You need to leave now."
Right.
Like you need to leave, get out. But I was just saying, look, you know, I don't think I can. I don't think. But he was just panicking. He was really distraught.
And these calls all preceded, did they, your first 999 call, which we have at 1:56?
Yes. I think he may have even said that he's phoned the fire brigade, and have I phoned the fire brigade?
Right. Now he said, as you've told us, you need to leave now.
Yeah.
Get out. We know that you didn't act on that advice, at least straight away. Why is that?
Because I thought that, you know, someone would come for us. I didn't want to put my wife at risk. If I was there by myself, I probably would just have left. But my wife was very frail, very delicate, and I didn't want to put her life at risk by going into the smoke.
Did well, let's just see. Paragraph 29 on page 6. You say at the start of that paragraph, there may have been a third call from him before I called the fire brigade myself, but I think it was after he told me that he had called the fire brigade on my behalf. He said that he had told them what flat Pilly and I were in. By this point, he was sounding quite panicked. Did he pass on any advice that he had got from the fire brigade to you during that call? Do you remember?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
He just asked me to leave now, please leave now.
Did he tell you, do you remember whether he told you that the fire brigade had told him to tell you to stay put?
Not that I remember, no.
Now the first call that you make is at 01:56:20. And the transcript reference for that is LFB 344. If we can just have that, please, up on the screen. You can see, Mr. Burton, that from the first page of this transcript that the time of the call...
Excuse me, I think that's the second call. It's 2:30.
You're quite right. You're quite right. My misreference. It's...
No, it's right.
I have it. It's 334. And you can see from the top strapline of blue letters that in the group of numbers, second from the right, it says 015620.
Yeah.
So it's 01:56:20.
Yes, I understand.
Which is the time of the call. Paragraph 30 of your statement, we don't need to go to it. You say you made this call when you were standing in your kitchen.
Yes.
Is that right?
I was in the kitchen.
And that faces west.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And we can see that if we need to from the layout of your flat. It faces west. My question is, could you see anything out of your window at the time you made this call?
Yeah, I probably had already been to the window. I didn't look at the kitchen window because it's a tight space, and we had a fridge, like in that kind of area.
Yeah.
But the next window along in the living room, I looked out the window there.
Now, if you look at the first page of the transcript...
I looked out of several windows, though.
Okay. And did you see anything out of those windows?
Yeah, I saw people downstairs. I saw blue flashing lights. I see people shouting, but I couldn't necessarily hear what they were saying. I see people congregating down near the station when I was looking out that way, and when I went and looked on the other window, I was seeing traffic congregating on the A40 elevated section there, and then yeah.
Did you see any signs of fire or smoke?
Afterwards, yes. So when I looked further out the window, a little bit time afterwards, to my right when I was looking north, and also I could see the reflection against the school, against they had a big glass atrium in the school, so the reflection of the fire was actually against that. So you could actually see, not perfect, but the glow, and also I could see at another stage the flames or the glow coming towards my part of the building.
Can I just ask you to go back to the layout of your flat? Just want to follow something up if I can, which is IWS 63. The kitchen is to the bottom right-hand corner of this.
Yes, that's correct.
This diagram. So we've got the west face of the building at the bottom and the north to the left, as it's presented on the screen in front of us.
Yes.
Between the kitchen and the living room, there appears to be a wall to the right of the round table that we're looking at.
Yes.
Is that a wall or is that a sliding screen?
No, that's sliding doors.
On the night of the fire, was that door open or closed? Do you remember?
Yeah, we always had it opened. Never tend to close them.
So when you were making your call in the kitchen, you could see out of the kitchen window to the west. Could you also see out of the living room windows to the north?
If I had looked, yeah, I was quite near where I was probably standing where the washing machine was. So, but if I moved a step or two, yeah, I could see out to the west and probably out to the north. But you probably won't be able to see anything unless you go towards the window and look down, because we were very high up.
Focusing back on the question I asked you earlier on, when you looked out of the kitchen window, could you see any signs of smoke or fire from that window?
No.
You couldn't?
Yeah, I didn't actually look at the kitchen. I went to the next window.
I see.
And looked.
So the next one being the one opposite the dining room table?
Yes.
Or next to it. Now, going to the call, you say on page 2, if we can just go back to the transcript. You say, "Oh, hi, good evening." This is the caller. "I think you know about it already. We're in Grenfell Tower. The whole tower's on fire, and we're on the 19th floor." Just pausing there. When you said the whole tower's on fire, how did you know that?
Well, I didn't necessarily know the whole tower's on fire. It was what Simon was. So I'm just repeating what my friend told me. He said the whole tower's on fire. I mean, I didn't actually know the severity of what was actually happening.
Yes, I see. So
I was just repeating what he told me.
yeah. And then you go on to say, after the operator says, "You're on the 19th floor, are you?" "Yeah, we can't go outside because there's too much smoke and everything." "Too much smoke? Don't go outside. What flat are you in, please?" 165. And then you go on to say towards the bottom of the page, the fire alarm's gone off and the fire brigade are on site and everything else, but I just wanted to, yeah, no, that's all right. What I'll do, I'll let them know where you are. They'll be coming door to door to make sure everyone's safe. The fire is actually on the 4th floor, okay. So, okay. Now, a number of questions just about that passage, which I've just read to you. First of all, when you refer to a fire alarm, what are you referring to?
The smoke alarm in my flat.
Smoke alarm in your flat.
Yeah.
How long before this call did the smoke alarm go off?
Oh, straight away when I opened the front door. But I just ripped the battery out.
Right. Now, when you, going back to page 2, if you just go back to page 2 of the transcript, towards the bottom of the page, after the reference to the fire alarm, you say, but I just wanted to, now it's difficult to try and piece this together, but do you have any idea or recollection of what you were trying to tell the operator?
I probably just wanted to make sure that they know that we're here, and they knew that there was a fire, and
Right.
you know, and I think by what I saw out the window, I'm sure hundreds of people must have phoned them. So I know that they knew that we were. I just wanted to say that we're still here. We're waiting, or we're, you know.
And then at page 3 of the transcript, you say, just before halfway down, yeah, it's only smoke because I opened the front door and so smoke came in. I've closed the front door. It's just in the corridor. Does that mean that at that point there was no more smoke coming into your flat?
There was no more smoke coming into my flat.
Right. And she then goes on to advise you to put towels and blankets around the door and leave the windows closed. You can see on the rest of that page. I think you'd already taken those steps by that stage.
Yes, I did. Yes, I had like fire safety training at work and stuff like
Yes.
this.
And then she says, 3/4 of the way down the page, put them all round the door, leave the windows closed, because I know there's a lot of smoke outside as well, and they'll make their way up to you, okay? If anything changes, give us a call back, okay? But yeah, stay where you are. All right then? Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Did you feel reassured by the advice that the operator had given you to stay in your flat?
Yes, I mean, yeah. Because in my mind, I was still thinking that, you know, I was going to get a knock on the door and say, you know, the fire has gone out and everything. I know my friend Simon was shouting down the phone, but I still registered that it's safer to be in my flat rather than try to. As I say, if I was by myself, I would have, you know, just left and attempted to go down the stairwell.
Now, we know from the call that you weren't asked by the operator about the age of, well, your age or Pilly's age, or whether you or Pilly had any mobility issues.
Yeah, they never asked any of that.
They didn't. We know that she didn't ask that question. Is there any reason why you didn't volunteer that information to the operator? Why didn't you say, my wife's got mobility difficulties?
No, I didn't know at the time. I was just, whatever came to my mind then, to make sure that they knew that we were there. That was my main hunch, that you know that we're here.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think about asking about, you know, my wife was very frail and can't walk or hardly walk or anything. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as, I just don't know why. I just said what I just said.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we've been going for exactly an hour, and now is a convenient
It is
moment
convenient
for a break, yes.
Yes,
Mr.
right.
Burton, is it convenient to you?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right, well, Mr. Burton, we'll have a short break now. Please don't talk to anyone about your evidence while you're out of the room.
No, not at all.
And if you go with the usher, we'll start again at 11:10. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Right, 11:10, please.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, could you ask Mr. Burton to come back, please? Thank you. All right, Mr. Burton?
Absolutely.
Carry on.
Good,
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Burton, thank you for coming back to us.
You're welcome.
I want to show you a document that I was going to show you before,
The
which
letter,
does
the newsletter.
the newsletter, absolutely. Now, before I do, I should just explain to you and everybody else that this document is in the public domain. It's available on the internet if anyone wants to find it, but it also has a relativity reference, ART quadruple 02606. We can just have that up. Now, that's the first page of it. We can see that it's a TMO Ryden Grenfell Tower Regeneration Newsletter, July 2014. What's been happening and various things. And then over the page, if you go please to page 2, you can see at the very bottom of the page, if we can just have that blown up, please. Emergency fire arrangements. Our long-standing stay put policy stays in force until you are told otherwise. This means that unless there is a fire in your flat or in the hallway outside your flat, you should stay inside your flat. This is because Grenfell was designed according to rigorous fire safety standards. Also, the new front doors for each flat can withstand a fire for up to 30 minutes, which gives plenty of time for the fire brigade to arrive. My question is, do you remember ever seeing this newsletter with this advice in it?
We had many newsletters over the refurbishment, so they did keep us up to date with things, but I mean, I can't specifically say I saw that actual one and everything, but I did tend to read through them to get an update, yes.
Right. Well, whether it was this one or another one, do you remember seeing this advice or advice like it?
I mean, I can't recall that paragraph, you know, but it's there, so I may have read it, but I can't recall.
Right.
We got quite a few of these updates over the course of the 2 years or so.
Right. Do you remember when you got these updates whether this fire and safety advice was repeated, whether it was a regular feature of these newsletters?
Not that I know. There was talking about the surroundings or what was going to happen, you know, and maybe some timelines, but that part I don't remember.
Can I then go back to where we were just before the break,
Yes,
which was just your 999 call, your first one, which we've had at 334. After this 999 call finished, where were you in the flat? Were you still in the kitchen?
I was still in the kitchen, yes.
Okay. And where was Pilly?
On the sofa.
Now, at paragraph 33 of your statement, if you can just please turn to that, which you'll find on page 8, you say, all the windows in the flat were closed. I decided to move us into the bathroom in the flat. I think between the 2999 calls, though it's possible that I went back to the kitchen to make a second 999 call so as not to panic Pilly. Why did you move to the bathroom?
I think it was the desperation of Simon on the phone. So I thought if anything was going to happen, we'll wait in the bathroom. So if the fire did come to the bedrooms or the living room, I thought the safest place would be in the bathroom. So I just put us in the bathroom, sat Pilly on the side of the bath.
Right. And why the bathroom particularly?
Because the bathroom, there was access to water, maybe, and also it was near the front door. If we had to leave, that would be the place to go from.
Right. And now, paragraph 34, you say, I remember exiting the bedroom, closing the door behind me and going to get Pilly and moving her into the bathroom. Just pausing there, you say you exited the bedroom. Why did you go? At what point did you go into the bedroom?
I went to the bedroom when I took my wife, because it all happened quite slowly and calmly. It wasn't a panic or anything. So I decided that I thought if we have to go, my wife we need to get dressed. So I quickly went in and got dressed, jeans and t-shirt, I think, because it was a very warm, still night. And then I slowly got my wife up, took her to the bedroom, put trousers, socks, shoes, top, cardigan, just got her dressed on the bed, and then I thought, let me, I think I maybe taken her back to the living room then. We were just very calm and relaxed. And then I thought, go back to the bedroom because I might need some ID. So I went and picked up our passports and just put them in my back pocket. And then after maybe some phone calls from Simon, I decided maybe it's time to go to the bathroom.
Now, just picking up on phone calls from Simon, at paragraph 34 of your statement, you go on to say, during this time I got a further call from Simon who was telling me to go into the kitchen, which is more on the west side of the tower. He thought it was probably safest if we were in there. Did he explain why he thought it was safest?
Probably, I think actually maybe more phone calls, like, move from the bedroom, go to the living room, then go to the living room to the kitchen, and then I decided that maybe we were going to leave to go to the bathroom. But he was probably seeing the wall of fire coming across, and he probably was saying, if you're in your bedroom, that's going to be the first on that north side to come in contact with the fire.
Did he say that?
No, I'm just speculating. Sorry, but that's what I'm speculating about. He didn't actually say.
Okay.
He was just saying, get out of the bedroom or living room, go to the kitchen. So I was just speculating that if I'm going to be somewhere in the flat, it's going to be furthest point away from wherever the fire was coming from. And it was coming from that east-north point.
Did you move to the kitchen as per his advice?
Yeah, I was making the phone calls in the kitchen, but even then I still wasn't really over panicked or anything. But I just thought, let me just move to the bathroom. We got a water supply there, because I didn't know what was going to be ensuing, what was going to happen. Even though he was, saying like get out or move.
Right. Now you say that you moved from the bedroom and went to the living room, from the living room to the kitchen. Where was Pilly during this time?
Oh yeah, that's when I kind of moved her around with me.
Right. During that period of, as it were, touring the flat before you ended up in the bathroom, did you look out of the windows of the flat?
Yes, I probably looked out several times in the window. Looked out the bedroom window, looked out to the north-facing window near the corner. Looked out the. It's more kind of, to see what was going on. There was there's lots of blue lights flickering from every corner that you can think of, like maybe on Bramley Road near the tube station, and we can't see the south east corner, so I don't know what was going on that side of the building, but for maybe on Silchester Road was another road there. So yeah, there's more, not fascination, that's not the right word, but I was inquisitive about the things. And also the A40 was, I think traffic was now stopping on the A40 to look at the building.
During that period of going around the flat, did you notice, when you looked out of the windows, any signs of smoke or fire?
No, except when I looked. So I do apologise. Once I looked out the north-facing window, then I could see the reflection and the fire and that wall of a glow coming along. Because back in the day it was a bit more easier, where we had the single concrete column. You could stick your head out. I could probably see St Mary's Hospital in the distance, and the post office tower I looked out. But now with the new kind of cladding squared off, it was a little bit more difficult, but I could see that glow coming across.
Right. Could you see the actual glow itself, or was it reflected in the walls of the academy?
No, I could see the
opposite?
academy bit, but I could actually see the glow itself now. It was coming, you know, but as I said, maybe in my statement, I'm not too sure, but I never saw the fire entering my flat.
No. Now, moving then to your second 999 call, and that is LFB 344. You made that call at 02:13 and 3 seconds. Yeah. And if we have that on the screen, you can see it there, Mr. Burton. If you look at the transcript for that on the first page, the second group of numbers from the right, 021303, 02:13 and 3 seconds. And before we look at the detail of the call, do you remember where you were when you made this call?
Again, in the kitchen.
Back to the kitchen,
Yes.
so that Pilly couldn't hear you?
Yeah, I didn't want to alarm her.
Okay. And what motivated this call?
Probably from what I'm seeing out the window and Simon's call, I just wanted to be reassured a little bit that they were coming for us, that they know that we were there.
Now, on page 2, you start the call by saying, oh, hi, this is something from 165 Grenfell Tower. 165, yeah, Grenfell Tower, our tower block is on fire, yeah. And then you say, and we're trapped in the 19th floor, but nobody's coming. And the flames next door's getting very close to our windows now, and the smoke's in the houses. Just on that little passage, why did you say nobody's coming?
Because I still thought they would have come to our flat. You know, there was lots of fire engines around, and I was just kind of, you know, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the fire brigade. I just thought if there's so many fire officers, you'd do a floor-by-floor search to come, and they knew that we were there. Simon informed them that we were there. I told them, I thought, you know, we should be here by now, as I didn't know the difficulties that they were having, and I thought it's just a methodical way of doing things, like send a group of guys to, you know, floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, or 4, you know, and there will be a team just coming for us and just escort us out.
That's what you expected, is it?
That's what I expected, yes.
And what had led you to expect that?
Probably, you know, fires that have happened in the tower before, not at this scale. You know, as I said, there was a fire opposite us in our neighbour's house at one time, and the fire brigade came, put the fire out, and it was very, very, you know, quickly done. So that was my expectation, that, you know, this is a tower block and someone would come methodically to go through every single floor and just move us out. It wasn't, even though I was getting in my ear from Simon, like, you need to go now, the whole tower's on fire, leave now, please, please, you know, it still kind of didn't register that what happened. I thought, you know, I'm not, unless our house was on fire and that moment of fight, flight, you know, I wouldn't, it'd be difficult. I would have left. I mean, I wouldn't have left my wife, never. But we would have gone in the end if the fire would have come into our. I would have had to say, let's go now. But I wasn't taking that chance because, you know, there wasn't such a panic. I wasn't panicked myself enough.
And of course, this is your second 999 call.
Yes.
You've seen your first 999 call. Was there anything in the first 999 call that you took away from that call which had led to the expectation that the fire brigade would be with you by now?
Yeah, I just thought if they know that we're here, that they will come for us. So, I don't know if it was the wrong assumption, but I just thought, okay, they know that we're here, so I'll get a knock on the door.
Now, just focusing on the paragraph, or the passage we're on, just above the middle of that page on page 2, you say, And the flames next door is getting very close to our windows now.
Yes.
Just on that, where could you see flames?
So if I looked out the north side, onto the north side, if I looked out, because I looked out quite far, and they were coming from the northeast of the building. So it was just this wall of fire. So, but even then, I still didn't register that it was going to, be in our flat very shortly. I've looked at the evidence, and I know what time I came out. I've looked at the other evidence that has been given to us, and it seemed that I came out the tower maybe 2:33, or I was downstairs. But on the other evidence, maybe from forensic architects or some other thing, our flat was already on fire at 2:34. So I didn't have enough time. But I didn't know the scale of what was going to be happening.
Just teasing something out of the last answer, you say you saw a wall of fire.
Yes.
Was that wall of fire at the level of your flat?
And I think it was maybe even higher.
Right.
I think it was just a horizontal to my right, just a horizontal wall of fire coming across, maybe at an angle. I'm not too sure. I couldn't tell was an angle this, but
No.
it just seemed that it was probably higher than my flat.
Did you get any sense of how fast it was moving laterally towards you?
No, not really. No.
Now you go on to say, and the smokes in the houses, and I know there's some over-speaking. What did you mean by that?
But there was smoke in our house from when I opened the door. I think it's a couple of times I opened the door, I think. But yeah, it was. I didn't see like smoke. I mean, some other people's statements saying that they had smoke coming through the windows, coming through, holes, but I didn't kind of register that. It was just something I said. I don't know. Sorry.
Right. You say, just moving ahead in the call to page 4, at the top of that page, that there's smoke in the whole house.
Yeah.
Question is, as you see from the second item down, is the smoke okay at the moment? And then you say something, over speaking, smoke in the whole house. Okay, not bad smoke, we've got something, but you're okay. Did you have smoke in the whole flat?
Well, it was the smoke from the opening and closing the doors. That was the only smoke. There wasn't any other smoke coming in from the window sills or anything else like that. And then after time the smoke dissipates into other rooms. But then afterwards, when I went to put my wife into the bathroom, then I closed the bedroom doors, the living room door, the kitchen door. So I just closed all the doors.
So at the time of this second call, is this right, that you'd only opened the front door into the lobby once?
I may have opened it again. Sorry, I just.
Right. But the only smoke that had come into the flat was from the lobby?
Was from the lobby, yes.
Okay. Now, at that stage, was that smoke having any physical effect on you?
No, not really, no.
What about Pilly?
No.
Now, just going back a page, slightly different topic on this same call, but back a page to page 3. Towards the bottom of the page, the operator says, yeah, we are trying to get to you, but we've got, numerous people trapped in the flats. So, I understand. And then the operator says, we just want to sort of try and assess how bad it is, but are you okay? Did you, when she said, we just want to sort of try and assess how bad it is, what did you think the fire brigade was up to? What was it doing?
Maybe I just thought that they were just checking every single floor, and they'll get to us at some stage. I can see now flames coming up the side of the building, the phone calls from Simon, the reflection from the school. I knew that's. But I was still a little bit confident that they'll come and knock on the door and just, you know, and everything could be all right. Maybe they just put the fire out. I didn't comprehend the scale of things.
Right.
And yeah,
And the call then ends on page 5. At the top of the page, any worse, ring us back.
yeah.
But we are trying to get to you. When the operator told you, we are trying to get to you, what did you think they were doing?
Yeah, I thought they were going to come. I probably said to my wife, "Don't worry, look, they're coming for us now."
Did you get any kind of impression as to whether the LFB were prioritising other rescues ahead of you?
By the kind of analytical thing of seeing the wall of fire, I think they must have been going to other flats on that right-hand side. I didn't know or see any fire on the west side or on like flats below us or anything else like this. So I just thought they were just going on that side, so they would have to do floor by floor, but the fire was there, so I was just confident that they were coming for us.
You were confident they would come for you. Did you have any thoughts at the time about how long that might now take?
No, I just made the thing that they come in and reassured my wife that they were on their way.
Now, again, on that call, and I haven't shown it all to you, but it is right. You weren't asked whether either of you or Pilly had any mobility difficulties.
No.
And again, you didn't volunteer that information on that call. And
No,
my
I
question
didn't.
remains the same question I asked you before. Is there any reason why you didn't tell the operator that your wife had mobility difficulties?
I don't know. I don't know why it didn't come to mind.
Now, can I then take you back to your witness statement and go, please, to page 9? You say in paragraph 40 on that page, when I heard the noise outside our front door, I immediately went to the front door and shouted out from the inside and repeatedly struck the door with the palm of my hand. I was shouting, "Hello, and we're here." Now, I know you, in paragraph 38, we just look at 38, you say in the second part of that paragraph, it felt like an age before anything happened between the time of that second call and when I heard noises outside in the corridor. But I now realise that it cannot have been for more than 10 minutes or so. How do you calculate or estimate the 10 minutes?
Because I tried to analyse from... the timelines are very sketchy in my head about everything that happened. So I was just kind of estimating. I don't know the exact times. I don't know actually how long we were in a flat. I don't know what the time of the bang on the door. It just seemed that we were doing things calmly, getting my wife dressed, sitting down, taking the calls. It wasn't like a panic or a rush, and I'm just trying to figure out that by the picture of myself being downstairs and the time of the call, so that's where I've got that kind of
Right. So
that kind of number, yeah.
So would it be fair to summarise your estimation process as saying, well, you start with 2:13 as the time of the second call, and
Yeah.
2:33 as your exit time?
Yes.
And
And
therefore,
take about the time that it takes to come down the stairs. I don't even know how long that took. And so that's the analysation of how I'm working that out.
Yeah. Okay. Now, where were you when you heard the bang at the door, noise at the door?
Yeah, so I was my wife was sitting on the bath and I was just standing, like holding her hand, and I just heard a little noise or something at the door. So I thought, oh, maybe the fire brigade are here. So I just went and instead of just opening the door, I just started banging on the door.
What was the noise you heard at the door?
I don't know, maybe somebody talking or a voice or something like that.
Was it easy to hear the noises from the bathroom?
No, not really. Not really. I don't know what it was that triggered me to. I heard something, so I just acted.
Do Do you think you would have heard those noises if you'd been somewhere else in the flat, like your living room?
No, I don't believe I would have.
Were the noises at the door directed at you, or were they just...
I just heard a noise and I just started banging.
Right. Now, you went to the front door, you say, and shouted out from the inside. I'm sorry, this is paragraph 40. I'll just have that back up on the screen. You say, when I heard the noise outside our front door, I immediately went to the front door and shouted out from the inside and repeatedly struck the door with the palm of my hand. I was shouting, hello, we're here. I think I repeated this several times. I believe I heard a response saying something like they knew I was there, but they wanted to check the neighbours. I heard a bang on Fatima's door, which is flat 164.
Yeah. I just thought it was Fatima's door because the bang was loud. They said, we're checking your neighbour, and then I heard an almighty bang several times, boom. So I just thought it was off. It was so loud, I just thought it was just a flat to the, as soon as you come out the front door to the right, 164, because it was loud.
Right. And the front door to 164 is adjacent to yours?
Yes.
To your
yes.
right, I think.
To our right, yes. But I found out it was my friend or our friend at 161, Debbie.
Now, you then describe at paragraphs 41 a voice. You say, I heard a voice from outside telling us to be prepared to come out and that we should get towels that were completely wet. And then you go on to describe the preparations that you made to get you and Pilly and your dog out of the flat. Do you remember whether at that stage, when you were making these preparations, the firefighters... Well, let me just ask you this. Where were the firefighters at that stage when you were making these preparations?
I'm not too sure. They just told us to, we know you're there. We're just going to go and check your neighbour. Then I heard an almighty bang, several bangs, and then we just waited. So I just made sure that the towels were just put some more water on the towels that were in the bath, and then I tried to get my wife to stand up and go to near the front door, and then I tried to put a towel on her. She was just like, get away, don't put that on me. Put one on my dog, Lewis, and I don't know why I did that. And we just waited until they returned.
And when they returned, did they bang on the door again?
Yeah, I think, boom, yeah, there was a kick or a bang or something like this, yeah.
Right. Did anybody, any of those firefighters ask you whether you or Pilly had any mobility or other issues?
No.
How many firefighters did you see or sense were there?
At that point, I didn't know how many were outside, but once we opened the door, I didn't know how many were there, but I just said that somebody grabbed my wife, somebody grabbed me.
Yeah.
I didn't see them. I mean, I didn't register what they looked like. It was just like an arm coming out of the smoke. The smoke just gushed into the flat, and then I didn't really even see properly the fire officers. I just see an arm, one come from my wife. So I think the officer may have stepped in, but another arm came from me, and that was because they said, "Be prepared, get ready. We're coming. Open the door now." So.
And you opened the door to them.
Yes.
And then at that moment, smoke rushed in.
Yeah, the smoke rushed in, and I said, also I got my dog here. But the fire said, "I'm really sorry. We've got to go now," and that was it.
When do you think, or when do you recall that the firefighters first realised that Pilly had mobility difficulties?
I don't think they ever knew. I think the fire officer, once Pilly went out into we went out into the darkness, and it was completely dark. And I think then I had my my hand around my wife's waist, and then when we went into the darkness, then I lost her. So I just started screaming, "Where's my wife? Where's my wife?" And somebody said, "Look, I've got her."
And then you crossed the lobby
Yeah,
with the firefighter.
with the firefighters, yes.
And when you got to the stair door, who opened the door to the stairs? Do you remember?
It was dark. I never saw anything.
Right.
I didn't see the door opening. Didn't see how we got into the stairwell. We were just shuffling along. The gentleman had me very tightly on my left arm, and I thought that the fire officer myself went first, I believed, but I've read otherwise that we didn't. But I just thought that we went first, and but I didn't. And I thought my dog would come, afterwards.
Take a moment. Take a moment.
Thank you very
Do you
much.
want a break?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Just take a moment
Yeah,
to
sorry.
settle yourself.
Yeah, so we just, I don't remember the stairwell door opening or closing because it was just dark. Of course, I've got a towel over my head. My eyes are open, my eyes are closed, my eyes are open, my eyes are closed. Towel, but there was no light.
Just some questions on the lobby. How long, and it's very much an estimate, of course, do you think it took for you to cross the lobby from your front door to the stair door?
Maybe 10 seconds, just shuffled along. We weren't dragged, we just shuffled along, and it wasn't far.
And during that,
That's probably from where I'm sitting to where you're standing, or just a little bit more.
during that period, you said earlier in your evidence this morning that you registered the sound, or whirring or whining sound.
Yeah, a whining sound that was going on. So it wasn't alarm bells or anything else. It's just this woo sound.
How loud was it?
Yeah, it was audible. It wasn't like super loud, but it was just constant whining. I don't know what it was.
Had you ever heard it before?
Not in that capacity. I mean, I don't know whether it was the extractor system, which I've heard that going off and making noise, but it was just a mixture. Yeah, just this whining noise. I don't know. I don't know where it was coming from.
Right. You say you heard the extractor system going off before. That's before the fire.
That's before the fire. That used to make noise. I remember coming. I mean, the extractor system's always been there, but I remember them upgrading it and cleaning it. One day they had the front panels off, and it was nice and shiny and clean in there. But the vents have always been there. That's part of the fabric of the building. So, but one day I saw they took the grill off, and it was all nice, clean, shiny metal inside. So they upgraded it or just cleaned it out. I don't know.
And these noises that you heard the extractor fan making, was that after the refurbishment? Or
Yeah, more after the refurbishment. Before I never used to notice. I mean, I probably knew what they were for, but it was more after the refurbishment that noise. It's mainly on the ground floor, like where the lift lobby is. You hear it a lot then, but
right, okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to anybody at the TMO about that noise?
personally, no, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Did you hear it from when you were inside your flat at any time?
No.
So you heard it, and you say it wasn't loud. Could you compare it with a vacuum cleaner? Was it
Yeah,
louder or softer than a vacuum cleaner?
It would have been. I mean, there's a lot going on. It's not as, probably vacuum cleaner.
Ish.
Ish. Yeah, but I wasn't registering. I just know that there was a whining noise, but I was more concerned about where my wife was and what was happening to all of us.
The smoke that you saw when you went out into the lobby, was that thicker than or the same as the smoke that you first saw when you first opened your door?
No, it was the same. It was just acrid black smoke. It looked like someone had set fire to a tyre in our lobby, and that jet black smoke that we were, having to breathe in. Like, imagine setting fire to a tyre and then sticking your face in it and staying there. That's how
Right.
how it felt.
Did it have any physical effect on you?
Yeah, afterwards, yes, absolutely. I was sick for a long time. I collapsed several times. I had to go back to hospital.
But no, sorry to cut across your evidence, but during your progress across the lobby, did it have any immediate physical effect on you?
Just the effects of taking a gulp of that. That there's no clean, fresh air to take in, so you've had to take that acrid black smoke into your lungs, and your next breath will be another one and another one and another one, because there's no clean air, so you just have to take it in.
Did the towels not help?
When I was going down the stairwell, I found myself that I couldn't breathe, so I just thought to myself, look, because I used to do scuba diving, so I thought you don't have to breathe every nanosecond. Like, if you ever go scuba diving, the first 10 or 15 dives, you run out of oxygen very quickly because you just panic to breathe, but afterwards just take your breathing much slower. And I decided that even though we're going around and around and around and around and around and around, and I just thought if I just kind of control my breathing, but then it was just so hot that I got the corner of the towel and twisted it around and stuck it as far back into my throat as possible, because it was just hot on the back of my throat. It was just burning. So I just couldn't, and the towel was moist, and so that kind of maybe alleviated a little bit, but of course you've got to take a breath. So, and it was in the darkness, and even going down the stairs, I don't know how many stairs, maybe 8 stairs, so you've got to run down 8, there's a flat bit, 8 again, flat bit, 8 again, in the dark. It's like asking you to go to platform 1 on Chancery Lane tube station. It's hard to fathom where you are. You don't want to run downstairs because it's stairs, and you know that you've got to move, and it's just the bravery and the strength of the fire officer running along the wall while I was going on the inside of where the railings were.
Okay, I'm going to come to the stair conditions in a bit more detail in just a moment. Before I do, can I just ask you, still in the lobby, did you notice any change in temperature in the lobby when you left, between leaving your flat and going into the lobby?
Yeah, the temperature changed. It was much hotter.
Right.
I mean, there was a whoosh, like I could feel that the temperature changed, but I think the biggest temperature change was in the stairwell. That was it was just that initial shock that I was in out of my flat, and there was an atmospheric change, of course, and but I remember more heat in the stairwell.
Just staying with the lobby for the moment, could you give us some impression about how hot it was in the lobby, comparing it with something like a hot English summer's day or a sauna?
No, in the lobby, not necessarily. I think the sauna bit was the stairwell, but more of a summer's day kind of. There was a temperature change.
Right.
So it's not that I was registered the differential, but the stairwell was. That's like that vacuum of like walking into a sauna. That's a different atmosphere.
Okay, and that's my next question. When you get into the stairs, was that change in temperature immediate?
No. As I went further down the stairwell, it got hotter.
Okay.
And then I was holding on to the rail, and then I don't know what happened. The heat was just unbearable. I didn't see any fire, I didn't see anything, but I just know that I was holding onto the rail. It got hotter and hotter, and then I could not touch it. It was like maybe opening my car and touching the engine straight after it's just been turned off. You wouldn't want to touch the metal, and then I couldn't. So I couldn't touch the. And I don't know where we were in the stairwell, what floor, anything. I just understood that maybe this is it. Maybe there's a fire's going to come now, or maybe there's been a gas explosion in the stairwell because there was a gas pipe running the whole length of the. I mean, with my friend Shah, we discussed that with the TMO, with the council, why, an afterthought of, we just had this £10 million refurbishment, you put all new false ceilings, and now your secondary thought is that, we forgot the gas, so we're going to now put more pipes and more things into your houses and change things around, and I maybe thought that one of the gas pipes had blown because the heat was very intense.
Was that a thought you had while you were descending the stairs?
Yeah, I think because I couldn't register why there would be so much heat in the area that you're meant to be the safest in. So the stairs are meant to be the protection, the shell, the inner core, to where people should be safe to get out of the tower. And I just didn't comprehend how that much heat was in that thing. Did it come from outer flats into the stairwell, or was it produced in the stairwell and maybe the gas had ruptured and been on fire? I mean, I didn't see any fire. There wasn't like a panic where, most of my thoughts about breathing and like, where is my wife? That was like, if I'm suffering like now, what is she going through? I didn't know that she'd already collapsed and everything else like this. But my mind was like, I'm not going to make this. So, where's my wife?
I understand. I just want to see if I can, and I know it's very difficult, but see if I can unpick a little bit of the temperature changes as you come down. So when you leave the lobby and you enter the stairs for the first time, put your foot on the stairs, you know you're in the stairs.
Yes.
Did you notice a change in temperature at that point?
No, not from
the lobby
initially,
to the stairs?
from coming out of the, I think my mind was registering on, okay, these are the stairs. So now we're going to go down the stairs in pitch black. And we came down the stairs a bit, and then I think I stepped on somebody. I think there was a body like in the stairwell. So I was like, whoa, and I was just trying to register. So that felt funny, because I looked down, I couldn't see my feet, and then I kind of thought that can't be. Maybe it's a fire hose or something like that. I was just trying to, but then we continued down. I don't know if there was things in the way in the stairs, but that initial of me stepping, I thought I stepped on somebody, and that happened quite quickly, I think.
Before that experience, did you notice a change in the temperature in the stairs?
Not necessarily from the lobby into that stairs, but once we were in the stairs, there was a differential change to the atmosphere and the heat.
Right. Once you were into the stairs, and how big was the change in temperature once you got into the stairs?
As we went further down, it got hotter and hotter and hotter, yeah.
At what point, and again, it's difficult, I know, to be precise about these things, but at what point, after how many flights or so, do you think you began to notice it getting hotter?
I couldn't
Right.
guesstimate about. I just didn't know where I was or anything else.
Is there a point when it began to, and you described the hot handrail and the heat,
Yeah.
was there a point during your descent when it began to cool down a bit, or at all?
The problem is that I can remember the heat, I can remember the railing, but I have a total, I know I said some things in my statement, but I have a total blackout of how, when I came into or got handed over. I don't remember anything of the bottom part of the stairs. I try in my mind to, see what happened, but there was a point where I thought I was finished. I was buckling. I can't breathe. I don't believe that I passed out. I don't believe. I think the fire officer's statement would have said that this guy's passed out or something like this. So I don't believe I passed out, but I don't have in my mind now the recollection of the bottom half of coming out or meeting anybody or being handed over. I got nothing in my brain about that at all. Okay. My next realisation, my next awakening was being in the atrium, and I think I've already had a discussion with somebody that I wasn't leaving the tower. So there's a lot of things that I know I read my statement, said there's a handover or something else, but in my head now, I've got nothing at all recollection of what happened at those bottom stairs coming into the light or into fresh air or anything. I got nothing at all in my brain. I've tried to search, but I don't have nothing at all.
So you don't remember at what point the smoke began, or you first saw light?
No. The next realisation in my mind is standing next to the green door to the boxing ring. So I must have had a discussion that I was not leaving the tower until I know where my wife is. I'm sorry, I just don't have that visual in my head at all.
Okay. Before that blank period, is there a point you do remember when you registered the heat being at peak intensity?
Oh yeah, when I was having to take my hand off the rail. So.
And that's very helpful. But just trying one more, seeing if I can get a bit more out of this. Roughly, how many flights do you think you'd gone down when you got to that point?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you whether it's on the 3rd floor, the 10th floor, or even the 16th floor. More than 16th floor. Sorry, less than 16th floor, because we've been going around and around.
Right.
But I could not tell you exactly the point of. I don't think I blacked out or collapsed or fell over, but I just don't know. I have no recollection of coming into fresh air, coming into maybe being handed over, or maybe somebody else taking me. I don't know what happened.
You say less than the 16th floor because we've been going round and round.
Yeah, so we've been going round and around for a bit, and then I don't know where the heat was coming from, and it was just getting hotter and hotter, and then I just vaguely remembered just the heat of the banister. Yeah. That was just intense, but the brave fire officer, I remember him reassuring me, "You can do it, we're nearly there, let's go. You can do it, we're nearly there, let's go. You're gonna make it." So I could hear that ringing in my head, even though I never even saw the gentleman. But I don't remember anything in that kind of section.
Now, outside the tower, you were treated, I think, by the paramedics.
Oh, but before, I must have had some discussion, because I was at the gym door, and then time just stopped. It just seemed forever and ever and ever. And I was panicking because I didn't know whether my wife was out first or she was behind me, because I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that I was standing my ground and I wasn't going to leave that tower until I knew where my wife was. And then, boom, the door burst open, and 4 fire officers had my wife, one on each limb. So so they were holding her backwards. Apart from her little top, she had no clothes on, no socks, no shoes, no underwear, no trousers, no cardigan. and I just thought she was dead. I thought maybe she got burned or something's happened in that stairwell, and she had no clothes on. So I just stand there in total disarray and shock that what's happened is she's dead, and they're just bringing her out. And then they come past me, and they didn't even stop to look at me really, but I had the towel, so I just threw it over her, and they just continued. But I think we waited, I don't know how long it was at the bottom, because we had to wait for fire officers or police officers with riot shields, because now the debris outside the front main door was raining. I mean, there was coming down, so we had to have a shelter. So the officers had my wife still like this, and then we waited to be rushed out of the tower under where the garages are, and then led away.
And did you see Pilly being treated outside?
What happened was, I tried to make my way across the green, and there was a commotion with people coming to us and everything else. I turned around once and saw the horror of the building totally ablaze, and that was sticking in my head for forever. That one snapshot, and then I got. I think there was near Beaumont Road. I think there was 3 mats. So there was maybe a red mat, a yellow mat, and a green mat. Triage mats, big ones, and I think they're split into like 4 as well. And I think I just got taken over to the green mat, and I sat down against the wall and tried to catch my breath because I was in total disarray. I think I saw some people that I knew, Petra and her husband. They were sitting near a tree. I just kind of, but then I was in total panic because I looked over and I saw somebody.
Just take a moment if you want.
Sorry. I saw somebody having CPR. So I thought, after seeing my wife coming out with no clothes on, and I thought she was dead. So I tried to get up, and there's people around, are you okay? And I was just saying, where's my wife? I need to get my wife. And then all of a sudden, somebody just said, is this your wife? And she just come walking over. So after a little bit more investigation, I think it was a gentleman that was having CPR, and I don't think he made it. And so we embraced, and so then I tried to get up, but then I think I collapsed, and then they brought me over to the yellow mat and started putting oxygen mask over me and giving me oxygen, and then I was like trying to get back to my wife because I wasn't really being a good patient, so I wanted to get up. And then somebody said, oh, your wife is gone. So I said, gone where? And then they said, they've taken her. I said, where? So they went off. So I said, go and find out where they're taking her. And they come back and says, I think they're going to Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. So when some more paramedics and people came for me, I was demanding I need to go to, because I think our local hospital for that area is like St Mary's or Charing Cross. Charing Cross, I think, is our local for that area, so you automatically get taken. But I was saying, I'm not going nowhere unless you take me to Chelsea and Westminster. My wife is there.
Just,
Mr. Millett, do you have a number of other questions you?
I have 3 or 4 on the same sort of topic, and then yes, then I'm finished.
I wonder whether Mr. Burton
might,
should
yeah.
have a break. Would you like a break now, Mr. Burton?
I'm fine. Thank you very
We
much.
will take a break anyway before
Yeah, sure.
at the end of these questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
In the usual,
Yes.
we'll take the customary break. And if the witness is content to continue for another 5 minutes or
Yes,
so,
sure.
which is all I think
Fine,
it'll
thank you
take.
very much.
Well, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, I think we know that you were taken in an ambulance, and then you couldn't find her, and it took 12 hours to find out where she was, and it turned out that she'd gone to the Royal Free Hospital in
To the
Hampstead.
road, yeah, because I got taken in the ambulance. I got taken on a stretcher, but once I was in the ambulance, the mood got lighter with the ambulance people. They are kind of trying to still catch my breath, and soot was coming out everywhere, and coughing. But it kind of got lighter. I thought I'm going to go to be reunited. But when I got to Chelsea and Westminster, she wasn't there, and I saw a friend of mine who, the company that I used to work for, he was working in A&E. So I told him to please go and find my wife. She's here. So I was very emotional in the hospital because he was telling me that I can't find her.
And you say in your statement that I think it took till 6 p.m. or so the next evening.
6 or 3. I'm not too sure the time. I just
How are you?
6? Oh no, it wasn't 6. It was maybe 3, I think. Sorry.
How were you able in the end to discover where she was?
It was actually a phone call that came into me. I already spoke to my sister, so my sister was on the case. Other people were phoning me. I think one of my first phone calls was actually from New Zealand, where my friend was watching it in daylight from New Zealand. Other people were phoning, because I did actually, when I was on the triage, took time to text my mother, my sister, my son-in-law, and my grandson. Like, don't worry, we're okay, or something like this. I just left it like that.
Were you aware of any system in place for finding out where Pilly had been taken? Or was it just a question of ringing round, trying pot luck?
I don't know about the systems, but there was because I worked in hospitals like for 12 or something years. You know, I've always worked in hospitals, but when there's major incidents, there's an information closed down. So it's even difficult for families and press and other people to find out. They don't even put your name on your band. It's just MI 001 or whatever. So something like this. So it was very difficult, and I actually got a phone call maybe from the hospital to say that she's here.
Going to paragraph 63, just for a second, on page 21, you say, it took me a full 12 hours to finally find out where Pilly was. She'd been taken to the Royal Free Hospital. After hours in accident and emergency and then transferred to a ward, I phoned around people that I knew at different hospitals, asking them if they could look out for Pilly. Eventually, I received a call from the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead to tell me that Pilly was there and was safe. So before you, well, first of all, you were in A&E at Chelsea and Westminster, were you?
Chelsea and Westminster, yes.
And did you ask the staff there to find Pilly?
Yes, I did.
And what did they tell you?
I asked the nurses, the doctors, everybody that would listen, like, where's my wife? She's been brought here. I was quite adamant that she's here. And then I met my friend Paolo, and I told him to go and look. I said, you have access to, you know my wife's face, so you know my wife.
Right.
So go and look for her, please.
Were the services at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital able to tell you at least how to go about finding her?
No.
And then you received a call from Royal Free. Did they tell you how they got hold of you?
No.
So it was a call out of the blue, was it?
It was a call out of the blue saying that your wife is here at the Royal Free Hospital. So I decided that I'm not going to stay there anymore.
Right.
And I'll get out and go.
Mr. Burton, I've come to the end of my questions, and I think now may be the time for our customary break, so I can check my notes to see if there's anything else I need to ask you, or whether other people have things they would like me to ask you. So, Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
we can rise for a short time.
We'll have a short break at this point, Mr. Burton, till 12:20. As I said before, please don't talk about your evidence to anyone while you're out of the room.
No problem.
And if you'd like to go to the usher now, she'll look after you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, 12:20, please. few questions,
A
Mr.
few.
Millett?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Millett has a few questions, he says, so we'll see where we go. Yes,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Millett.
Mr. Burton, really just a few. Thank you very much for coming back to us. Now, this is really just to treble check something. You told us that the smoke came into the flat as a result of opening the door, the front door to the lobby, once, perhaps twice.
Yes.
Once the front door was closed and you had wet towels put in place,
Yes.
did you see any smoke coming through, either the bottom or the top or the sides of the door?
No, I never.
Right. Different question. You've told us that you worked in hospitals. Is it
Yes.
also right that your wife, Pilly, had also worked in hospitals?
Yeah, that's correct, for many years.
So in that respect, would it be right that you and she knew the hospital system, if I can put it that way? You knew your way around the London hospital system quite well?
Yeah, I mean, my wife was contract manager for facilities, for catering and domestics and cleaning, and I've had several different job roles. Like I used to run the catering at Charing Cross Hospital, it's a big major hospital, 500 plus beds, St Mary's, run catering at St Mary's. I run private hospitals, so I had an idea of, because I do training for staff on health and safety, and I've had fire training. But I mean, I think you're probably getting around the system, how communications of to maybe find, families to find, their loved ones in hospital. But I've had lots of kind of training. I mean, in a major hospital, if you're in an office and the fire alarm goes off, you go down the stairwell and you go congregate in areas. If the fire is on a ward for the patients, you don't evacuate the patients, you decant them from one ward to another. So it's a decanting system, and other people go and wait in car parks and everything else. And we've had many of those in the hospital system.
My question is really, well, I haven't really asked it yet, but were you able, as a result of your and indeed Pilly's experience and career working in the hospital, I don't know what to call it, industry, but environment, did that enable you to draw on the help of friends and colleagues or ex-colleagues to be able to find Pilly?
Yeah, because people were phoning me. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, actually, I think one of my directors called during the night as well. So, but I think they run. I think he run Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, and then some other people, because my phone was, I didn't get that much sleep. The nursing staff were very adamant that I just sit there quietly and take in oxygen, but I was a bit more vocal about, I need to find, and people were phoning me, even though it was very late and early into the morning. People knew about it very, very quickly, but at that stage, I think it was just my colleague Paolo that I was kind of begging when I first arrived at Chelsea and Westminster to go and try and find. I knew a lot of people already in the hospital, in the domestics and catering services at Chelsea and Westminster, but I was we were kind of shut off to the world.
Right.
We were put into a ward, and I remember going visiting my wife on the ward, and they had police officers there, stopping people coming in. People were saying that they're friends, or even people saying they were related and still trying to get in onto the ward. So when I went to Hampstead Hospital, there was police officers and everything there guarding my wife and I think Rebecca.
Were you ever told of the selection process that was used to decide which hospital people from Grenfell were sent to?
No, I've never. Usually, I think from the Tower catchment area, I think Charing Cross is the local hospital, because it's probably doesn't take very long to get there. And Chelsea, Westminster, also St Mary's, Paddington. So I think it's just to do with catchment areas. I think it's probably their most of an operating system for the ambulance to say we're going to this. I didn't know about the wider scale, because I was at St Mary's Hospital during the 7/7 bombings, and I know that they locked down the hospitals and stuff like this, and people come from different parts of what was happening in London, but mainly to do with the speciality of the hospital. So if they found someone maybe with a heart attack, but they were in Russell Square, they might take them to UCL, or they might take them to St Mary's. So it's all, I'm not too sure exactly how their systems work to have an understanding of what happened.
Mr. Burton, I've got one final question for you, and it's this. Is there anything over and above your written witness statement and over and above what you've told us today about the events of the night, what you heard, what you saw, what you smelt, what you felt, that you think it's important for the chairman to know?
I've been deliberating about this question, as well as many times, and I thought if I was going to write something down as a major speech or something, but I just know that, and I'll just keep it sweet. This is an historic event. You know, the consciousness of the nation is looking at all of us. You know, how this inquiry, how the police investigation is going, and but this is so important that it has to stop here. We've seen failings and I've been failed so many times, you know, failings and failings and failings with other fires and other things, lessons not learned. So Grenfell has to stand for something, and it's to stop here about how people are treated and how the loopholes in the system need to be closed. You know, we as the survivors and everything, we're dealing with multi-billion-pound corporations. We're fighting against a system that is broken, and they know it's broken, but you know, they just usually put a sticking plaster over it and then move on, and they kind of, you know, no disrespect with inquiries, but I think that's just a system initially to save the government of the day any embarrassment. Oh, we're going to have an inquiry to find out the truth, and then time lapses. Hopefully we get to the bottom of this and to find out the truth, but it's over a long period of time. We've spent times with the Hillsborough families, we've spent times with other people during Lawrence, we spent time I've been going around the country myself, going up to Manchester, Plymouth and Portsmouth, talking to people, and they are absolutely scared of living in tower blocks with that cladding still on. So the system is not working. We meet up with, with the Prime Minister downwards, you know, all the housing ministers. They talk the talk, but you know, this has to be the one where it stops. And justice for me that, you know, this never happens again. You know, we have a fair system. You know, we've got a lot to deal with, especially in this environment at the moment, but it has to stop here. It can't go on, and then we'll be talking about another major incident where there's a fire and a loss of life, and then we're talking about, did we learn any lessons from Grenfell? Did we learn anything from Hillsborough? Did we learn anything from anything? It has to mean serious stuff. I mean, we've all been through a lot. I mean, we've got families here now, you know, that have lost, you know, multiple people, and it's been very, very challenging. So, you know, the weight of responsibility is yourself, you know, to make recommendations now and put them into place now, not just wait for a report and then the government say, yes, we've got the report and now we're going to think about another consultational process to go through things. It has to stop here with Grenfell. And Grenfell, I believe will mean something. You know, changes in regulations, changes in attitudes, social housing, all these big things that previous governments have been just, you know, they've just been wiping it away because it's not their concern at the moment, and that's why lives are lost. So the lessons has to be learned here and now and stop here. I think, you know, that's what I feel I've got to say.
Mr. Burton, thank you. And thank you for that in particular.
You're welcome.
I just want to say thank you to you for coming here today and giving us evidence. It's not easy, and your assistance with our investigations has been immensely helpful, so thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
I'd like to add my thanks, Mr. Burton. You rightly draw attention to the importance of the inquiry, and you've played your part in it by coming to give your evidence and talking about what must have been a dreadful experience. And it must have taken a lot of courage to do it, and I'm well aware of that. So,
Yeah, a lot has happened on this journey.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, during the journey, I had emergency open heart surgery as well. You know, and other things have happened along the way, and you know, yeah,
this is another step on your long journey.
Yeah.
And we're all very grateful to you for taking it and coming to tell us all about your experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, now, you're free to go. Would you like to go with the usher? She'll look after you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Chairman, it is now 25 to 1, and I would like, if I may, to use the next 25 minutes by
Yes.
doing a little bit of the reading in of witness statements that I was proposing to do this afternoon. I hope that doesn't
No, that's a good idea.
inconvenience
Let's make
anybody
use of the
in
time.
this room. There are a number of statements I'm planning to read in. I won't get to them all by the time 1 o'clock comes, and so what I'm hoping to do is to finish the reading off after the next oral witness,
Yes,
who will come at 2 o'clock.
That's perfectly all right.
Can I start then with the statement of Mr. Mustafa Abdu, reference IWS quadruple 0307, and his exhibit MA1 to MA3 at IWS 308. He was a resident of flat 184 on the 21st floor with an exit time of 1:28 a.m. His statement is dated the 17th of May 2018, and it stands under a statement of truth on page 5 of the statement. He lived alone at flat 184 before the fire and had lived there for 27 years, having moved there in 1990. And he lived with his brother, Abdul Qadir Abdu, until 2012, when he left to live with his wife and children very nearby. And they can see each other, in fact, from the windows. And his statement is written in English, although his first language, as he explains, is Tigrinya.
Yes.
He covers his experience of the fire itself at paragraphs 9 through to 17, and I should just pick out 1 or 2 paragraphs in that section. He says, at paragraph 9, on the 14th of June 2017, I was woken at 1:10 by a phone call from my brother. I know that this was the time because I checked my phone afterward. My brother told me that the tower was on fire. He said he could see the fire and smell the smoke. He pushed me to leave quickly, telling me to run for your life. I could not see any fire or smoke in my flat, but there was a slight smell of smoke. I put on my tracksuit and trainers, took my phone, wallet and car keys and left my flat, closing the front door behind me. The front door did not close automatically. And then he explains about the fire alarms in his flat. And then he says at 11, as I entered the landing in front of my flat, I could smell smoke. I was only on the landing for a matter of seconds, but I could see the smoke getting thicker. I could still see through the smoke, and it appeared normal, blackish in colour, and not particularly hot or cold. The lights on the landing were on. I believe that there was a fire alarm on the landing, but this did not sound on the night of the fire. All the other doors on the floor were shut, and there was no one else on the landing. I remember hearing the ventilation, which was unusual. I assume this was because the motor was moving faster to try to extract the smoke. I pushed the door that leads from the landing to the stairway and made my way down the stairs. This door shut automatically. As I went down the stairs, the smoke was getting thicker. It was thick and black, and the smell was getting stronger. It forced me to cover my face with my hood. By the time I reached the 10th floor, I began to panic. I'd lost visibility due to the smoke, and I became worried that the fire had spread inside the building, and I couldn't see it because of the smoke. The smoke was hot and had a horrible, strong smell, which is difficult to define. It seemed to be coming from the lower floors. I entered the landing on the 10th floor and couldn't see anything due to the smoke. The lights on the landing were off, and the door between the landing and the stairwell was shut. I pressed the button to call the lift, but the lifts had stopped working. I re-entered the stairwell and thought about going back up to my flat, but something told me to carry on going down the stairs. As I went down from the 10th floor, the smoke got thicker and thicker. I passed people going down the stairs. Everyone was rushing to get out, but I was able to pass people and move between floors easily. I had my mouth covered and was holding my breath, trying not to inhale the smoke. I can't remember whether other people were coughing. I passed a man who I later realized to be a resident going up the stairs. I passed another man helping his elderly father to escape, and two other people, a lady and a man. I would not be able to name them, but they were people I recognized from the tower. I cannot remember if the doors leading from the stairway to the landing on other floors were open. It was dark, and I was just concentrating on getting out. I was familiar with the stairs, and so I was able to judge where to place my feet. There was little congestion on the stairs at this point. On the way down, I passed a firefighter who was going up the stairs. He slowed down to let me pass and told me to carry on going down the stairs. I don't think he had a hose with him. I believe that this happened at around the 7th floor. I reached the ground floor and left the tower through the main door. Others were leaving at the same time, but I was able to walk straight out. It took me about 7 minutes to get down the stairs. Normally, it wouldn't take more than 5 minutes. I left the building at 01:25. And like all other statements that are being read into the record, Mr. Chairman, his statement will be in the record in its entirety and taken into account in its entirety by the inquiry. The next statement I would wish to read into the record is the statement of Samira Hamdan. She is a relative of the Hamdan and Belkadi family, residents of flat 175, 4 of whom died in the fire. This statement is dated the 21st of September 2018. There's a statement of truth in the first paragraph in the final sentence, and the signature page is page 15 of this statement. At paragraph 2, she says, and she describes her family relationships, and I'll read them aloud. My sister Farah Hamdan, her husband Omar Belkadi, her children Malak Belkadi, Tasnim Belkadi, and Alina Belkadi lived in 175 Grenfell Tower. Tasnim was the only member of the family to survive the fire. She, Samira, lived herself on Clarendon Walk, which is close to Grenfell Tower, as we know, with her husband and her children, and they had moved to Clarendon Walk in 2004. She describes the night of the fire from paragraph 8 onwards, and at paragraphs 11 onwards, she describes how she first became aware of the fire. And she says, at around 1 a.m., my phone started ringing, and I saw it was Farah. I knew immediately that something was wrong. I answered the phone, and she sounded panicked. I asked her what was wrong, and she explained that there was a fire in Grenfell Tower. I asked her if it was near to her, and she said she thought it was lower down the building. I told her that she need not worry if the fire was not near her. I was not concerned at this point. I was just relieved that the fire was not near her. I told her that if she was told to leave, she should come around to our house rather than wait outside the tower. She seemed calmer knowing that she could come to mine. The call ended after a few minutes. And then at paragraph 13 and following, she describes how she leaves the flat and goes out and looks at the fire. And she says, at 17, I left our block of flats and walked out onto a road. I wanted to take the usual route to Grenfell Tower via that road and then past KA School. As I got closer to the tower, I noticed there were lots more people out than usual at that time. Some were distressed, some were on their phones. I wanted to get closer to the tower, but I reached the police cordon just by the school, and I was not allowed to pass. I could hear sirens and knew the emergency services were all there. I felt panicked, but I reassured myself by telling myself that everyone who needed to be there was there. I saw one of my neighbours holding a man back and trying to calm him down. I saw a police officer and told him that my sister and her family were in the tower. I think that this was around 1:30 a.m. I'd used up all my data, so I couldn't contact Farah by WhatsApp. I tried to call her instead, but was unable to get through. I kept looking up at her window and thinking that the fire was not there, and repeating to myself that everyone was there who needed to be there. And then at paragraphs 26 to 29, after the time mark of about 2 a.m., which she identifies at paragraph 25, she describes speaking with Farah again on the phone, and then walking around the tower from different angles. At 27, she says, I did not want to panic her. I asked where they were and if they were okay. She told me that they were still in the flat. I felt very afraid, but I did not want to panic her. I asked if the girls were okay and if they were awake, and she told me that they were. She told me that in order for them not to be afraid, they were playing a game. I asked if they were coming out, and she told me that the 999 operator had told them to stay put and help was coming. I said, are you all right? And she said, yes, we're okay. Although she sounded fearful, she seemed reassured that the operator had told them that help was on the way. And, knowing my sister, I know she would not have wanted to alarm the girls. We ended the conversation, as I did not want to monopolize her time. The reality of the situation was hitting me. I turned to Taib and asked him, what is this? What's going on? I was starting to feel fearful. Taib tried to reassure me. He said that they would be okay and that everyone who needed to be there was there. He told me that he thought that the tower would go, but that they would be able to get everyone out. I kept watching the tower. The flames were rising, but they were not at Farah's flat yet. I think it was now approximately 2 a.m. And then she describes how the fire gets closer to Farah's window. And then at 31, she says, I kept asking Taib to call Omar. I was in a state of panic and shock and trying to comprehend what I was seeing. Taib kept trying, but the phone was engaged. I remember thinking that other people would be calling them, so he was probably on the phone to someone else. Eventually, Taib was able to get through, and I spoke to Farah. This was approximately 10 minutes after our last conversation. I tried not to sound panicked. I asked if they had been told to leave yet and what was going on. She said no, they'd not been asked to leave. They'd been told to stay put and to put damp towels at the bottom of the door. I checked that they'd done this and that the towels were wet. She relayed to me that they had done that already. I told her to make sure they were ready when they were told to leave. She told me they were ready, and she had Lena tied to her in a sling. She asked if I could see the fire. I told her that I could. She asked where it was and if it was bad. I did not want her to be afraid, and I was mindful that the children were with her. I said it would be okay, and that everybody who needed to be there was there. She told me that the girls were with her. I could tell that she was fearful, but she was talking in a calm manner in order not to scare the girls. I think it was working, as I could not hear any commotion or panic from the girls. This was our last conversation. And then she describes at paragraphs 38 to 40 in particular what she saw when she got to Walmer Road outside the building. And in para 40 she says, I saw the Wahhabi family crying, so I went over and we embraced each other. I saw Hannah Wahhabi, who lived on the 9th floor. I was relieved to see that she was out. She told me that her other family members were on the 21st floor, and she thought she could see them banging on the windows. I did not want to look that closely and see people trapped inside. And then at paragraph 44, she describes Taib trying to call Omar but not being able to get through. And then the experiences she endured when trying to find her family, which she explains from paragraph 53 onwards. particularly at 66 to 68 on page 14, she says, when we finally arrived at the paediatrics intensive care unit, when we got to the bed, I saw that it was Tasneem. She was covered in black soot. The staff quickly reassured me that she was stable and not in any immediate danger. They explained that she had come in conscious, but they had put her in an induced coma to get rid of all the toxins that were in her body. I was struggling to absorb all the information, and then it hit me. Where was everyone else? I said to the nurse, she has a baby sister and an older sister. The nurse said that no babies had been admitted, but there was a little girl aged around 10 who was unaccompanied. I turned round and saw the child, and I knew immediately that it was Malak. The nurse told me she was very poorly. She was on the bed nearest the window. Mr. Chairman, the rest of that statement, although I'm not reading it all, will of course stand as evidence in the record and be fully taken into account. It's not really right. It's not been. The next statement I would wish to read, Mr. Chairman, is the statement of Mr. El Alami Hamdan, another member of the bereaved family of the Hamdan Belkadi family. He's the father of Farah, who's the sister of Samira, whose statement we've just read, and of course of Samira herself. And his statement, I don't think I need to read any particular part of it into the record. It will stand in its entirety as evidence in the record. There's a statement of truth on page 3 over the signature, and it's a statement which is dated the 18th of May 2018. The next statement I would wish to read into the record is the statement of Mr. Ambrose Mendy, dated the 12th of September 2018. It's a statement which has a statement of truth at page 3 over the signature on that page. And I will just read one or two paragraphs of the statement into the record. He says at paragraph 2, I am the cousin to Mary Mendy and her daughter Khadija Say, who lived on the 20th floor of flat 173 of Grenfell Tower. I was granted core participant status, and I've been present every day of the oral hearings. I've been actively involved in the family and community events for my cousin Mary and her daughter Khadija since their untimely passing. I'm now undertaking it as my priority in life to proactively engage in the inquiry process. We have a huge family that has not accepted what has become of Mary and Khadija. They simply do not believe that this can happen in the Western world and that my dear cousin and niece succumbed to such cruel and inhumane deaths. And there are some questions that he raises at paragraphs 6, 7, 8, and 9. And at paragraph 10 says, I await the answers in the hope that one day I can explain the truth to my extended family and my family and begin the healing process. And he ends by saying, I wish for my barristers to fight for justice and retribution until the very end. The next statement that I would wish to read into the record is that of Muna El Ogbani, and she was a resident of flat 85 on the 11th floor. It's a statement dated the 15th of May 2018 with a statement of truth over a signature on page 11. And she exited the tower at 1:28 a.m. In summary, Ms. El Ogbani had been a resident of the tower since March 2006. She lived there with her husband Yusuf Khalud and their 3 children. On the evening of the 13th of June 2017, Ms. El Ogbani was at home with their children. Mr. Khalud returned to the flat about midnight on the 14th of June. At paragraph 9 of the statement, she says this, under the title Refurbishments, which starts just above paragraph 7. No one gave us any information about the cladding or the work being carried out. They never showed us anything about it being safe. The fire doors in the communal areas were always shut and were painted during the refurbishment. We never received any fire safety talk, and I've always been told to get out of the flat, not stay in it, in the event of a fire. We have no notice in our flat saying anything in the event of a fire. We did not have anyone come around to do any safety checks, apart from the gas check every year. And she explains at paragraph 12 how she was unhappy with the work done by the contractors because of the pipes and the gas work being done outside the tower. She says at paragraph 13, also as you walk down the stairs, there used to be floor numbers on the wall, so you knew which floor you were on, but they were removed since the refurbishment, and the lights were put up. The paragraphs 15 onwards, she describes her experiences of the night of the fire itself. I'm just picking it up, if I can, at paragraph 17. She says this: at about 12:30 p.m., Yusuf returned from the mosque. We had a chat and he made tea to drink. He received a phone call and said that he had to go out. He left quickly and didn't finish his tea and didn't say where he was going. He didn't close the front door properly, so I assumed he was just seeing a friend and could come back up. I closed the door and went back to the sitting room to wait and see what it was. I thought I could smell a little bit of gas at this point. I initially thought it might be my phone overheating. I went to the kitchen to check the cooker, but I couldn't smell anything in the kitchen. I think Yusuf left the flat at about 1:20 a.m. I then went to my bedroom and a friend of mine phoned me at about 1:25 a.m. Amina, who lives nearby. She asked if I was asleep. I said no, but I was just about to go to bed. She was speaking with a raised voice and sounded alarmed. She sounded frightened and like she was panicking. She said that the building was on fire and she can see that the fire is approaching my floor. She asked if we could get out. What she said and how she said it alarmed me. I told her, okay, I'm going. Yusuf had returned while I was on the phone to Amina. I went to see him in the living room. He was on the phone now as well. Yusuf was standing by the table on the west side of the room. I waited for a couple of moments for him to finish his conversation. I then told him what Amina had said. He told me that Hisham told him the same thing. I asked him what we were going to do. He said, let's get the children up and go out. I listened to him, but I was panicking. I went to wake up the children. I told them we needed to get up to leave the flat. A child wanted to put on his tracksuit bottoms, but I said we had no time and we just have to leave. He was wearing the green shorts and the shirt he was sleeping in. I went into my bedroom to pick up a jacket behind the door and my scarf that was on top of the chest of drawers. We'd seen nothing of the fire and had not smelt anything in the flat apart from the gas that I thought I'd smelt earlier. Yusuf picked up a child who was sleeping in our bed. We have shelves for the shoes by the door. I got to the door and another child said he wanted to put on his trainers, but I told him we didn't have time for that either. Initially, as I was first at the door and the others were behind me, I opened the door, and as I tried to step out, I saw that the communal area by the lifts was black with thick smoke. I could see no lights. Then I really panicked and started to cry. I closed the door. Yusuf spoke sternly and told me to stop crying and that we had to try again. After a short while, I opened the door the second time. The communal area was still black with smoke, but a firefighter had opened the stair door, and I saw the light to the stairwell. I saw the light through the smoke. The smoke was ceiling to floor. The smoke was thick and smelt very strongly. It smelt gassy. My neighbour Ali was standing between the lifts. We didn't speak. My focus was on getting to the stairs and getting out. Yusuf was at the back. He told me later that he was locking the door while carrying a child. There was one male firefighter on our floor by the stairs. I don't remember what he was carrying or wearing. He told us to leave, but we didn't discuss anything else. I then headed fast down the stairs to get out of the building. I was at the front, holding a child's hand, and another child was just behind me. There were lights in the stairwell, and from what I can remember, the air was normal and there was no smoke on the stairs. On the stairs I saw Mohammed Razoul with an older relative. He was helping the elderly gentleman down step by step. I think this was about halfway down when we passed him. Also, there was another neighbour, Khadija Kaloufi's husband, in front of us. I saw him after we passed Mohammed Razoul. He is also quite an elderly gentleman who wasn't moving so fast, and we passed him. I think we passed some other men and women as we went down, but I can't remember them. I apologised to Mohammed Razoul as we passed him, as it felt rude or wrong somehow to pass someone in an emergency. I didn't say anything to Khadija's husband. He looked frightened. We were going really quickly down the stairs. We were running down. At 1:25, we got the call from my friend, and the police photo time, if accurate, indicates that we were exiting the building at 1:28 a.m. I saw some firefighters coming up the stairs as I was going down, but I can't tell you how many. I also saw firefighters enter the building as I was leaving the building. Mr. Chairman, that is all I think I need to read aloud verbatim from Ms. Ogbani's witness statement into the record. It will stand in its entirety, of course, and be taken into consideration in its entirety. I think that the last statement I can read before the lunch break is Mr. Yusuf Khalud's statement. That's IWS 473. I should, I think, have said that the reference to Ms. Ogbani's statement is IWS 844. His is IWS 473, and it's dated the 23rd of May 2018. He was also a resident of flat 85 on the 11th floor. His statement is quite lengthy, and the signature page is page 17, standing under a statement of truth on that page. As I said, I think before, he is the husband of Muna El Ogbani, whose witness statement we've just read from. There are one or two further paragraphs from his statement that I should just read into the record. Paragraph 7, under the rubric fire safety, which starts just above paragraph 5, he says, "On my floor there was a fire alarm detector, or a smoke alarm detector, on the ceiling in the middle of the floor outside the lifts. I'm sure of this. To my knowledge, this detected heat and smoke. However, it cannot have been working on the night of the fire, as it did not go off when the hallway was filled with smoke." And then at para 9, he says, "I believe there were 2 silver vents on opposite sides of the communal hallway. There was one next to my front door. I believe these were supposed to be for sucking smoke or heat from the corridors and out of the building. I cannot remember ever noticing these work and never made any noises to suggest they were working. If they had been working on the night of the fire, then they would have been sucking smoke from the hallway, which they clearly were not doing." And then at paragraph 10 to 13 to 14, he covers the advice on fire safety. And he says in particular, at paragraph 10 of that passage, "No one has ever explained to me what to do if there is a fire. We were never given any advice on what to do in the case of a fire when we signed our tenancy agreement and moved into Grenfell Tower. We were not given a pack of papers or any leaflets on this subject. We were also given no verbal advice on this. I'd never seen any notices in the hallway as to what to do in the case of a fire. I have never seen any such sign in any floors. Before the 14th of June 2017, my belief was that I would have to go out of the building for the safety of me and my family in the event of a fire. Even if someone had told me to stay in put, I would leave." And then he describes his experiences on the night of the fire itself from paragraphs 26 onwards. And I would draw particular attention to his passage from paragraph 40 on page 11, dealing with his exit from his flat, going across the lobby, down the stairs and out of the building, which runs down to paragraph 47. He says, paragraph 40, "I closed the front door immediately after opening it. Smoke had already come into the flat from when I opened the front door, which set off the smoke alarm in the corridor of my flat. I think it only set off the one smoke alarm in the corridor, but I'm not sure. Muna was panicking after we opened the front door and saw smoke. The kids were also worried. My daughter looked like she was about to start crying. I was also panicking at the sight of the smoke, but I tried to hide my panic for the sake of my family. I needed everyone to be focused on getting out of the tower. I spoke to Muna and the kids to prepare them. I told them to be calm, to focus, and not to panic or scream. I said we needed to go straight to the stairs, which are on the other side of the lobby, and not to look back. I asked Muna to pass our youngest child to me, and I told her to take the 2 kids to the stairs. I would be able to run from behind with a child in my arms. I opened the front door again about 2 to 3 minutes after opening it the first time. The smoke in the hallway had become noticeably thicker than when I first opened the door. Smoke now covered the whole hallway halfway down to the floor, and I could not see more than 1 or 2 meters into the smoke. It had a strong smell, as if it was sponge that was burning. I cannot remember if I could taste it. I let Muna and the kids go out of the flat first, and I locked the door behind me using my key. I turned around towards the stairs and saw a light coming through from that direction. Muna and the kids were already walking towards the stairs, and I followed them and the light. They walked straight to the stairs, and I ran straight after them, locking up. It was very difficult to breathe until we got to the stairs. I thought that if it was a long distance away, we would not make it. We didn't have masks or anything over our faces. and I was holding a child with both hands. I did not see Mr. Ali or anyone else in the hallway at that point. When I got to the stairs, the door was held open by a fireman with an oxygen mask on. Muna and the kids were already going down the stairs. The fireman took off his mask and was shouting for people to get out. Hurry up. There were people already coming down the stairs from above. I cannot remember who these people were, as I was entirely focused on getting out. The smoke made me scared, but I did not want to show this to my family, who were all in front of me. I was shouting at them, things like, go down, don't stop, carry on. I was running down the stairs as fast as I could. The stairs were clear. I did not remember seeing any blockages of people, and they were quite clean. There was not much smoke in the stairwell. There was only a thin layer of smoke on the ceiling of the stairs, as the door to the hallway had been opened. You could smell this. However, I was able to start breathing properly in the stairs. There were people already on their way down in front of us, but I don't remember who they were. Muna told me later that she'd seen a man helping his father down in front of us, but I do not remember what happened to them. I was so focused on making sure my family got out that I do not remember who we passed. There were maybe people coming into the stairs from the floors below, but the stairs were not much busier. I did not see any firefighters as I was coming down the stairs, other than the one we had seen holding the door open for us on our floor. We had no problems running down the stairs. Shortly before arriving at the mezzanine floor, I believe I saw 2 firemen in the corridors telling people on the floor to get out. When we reached the mezzanine floor of the tower, we came out of the stairwell onto the landing of the mezzanine floor and turned left to go down the last flight of stairs before the exit. There was not much smoke on the mezzanine floor, maybe just a little bit that you could smell. On the last flight of stairs, there was a big glass window in the stairwell. I saw that there were lots of people outside watching what was happening. At this stage, I started to feel safer as I could see the ground. I could see there were police officers and firefighters who were calling people to get out and directing which way the people had to go. I felt much safer when I saw them. And that is, I think, all I need to read from Mr. Khalud's statement. And again, like all the other statements, Mr. Chairman, it will stand in its entirety as evidence to the inquiry and be taken into account accordingly. That, I think, leaves me 3 witness statements left to read into the record today, and I hope I'll be able to do those at some point before the close of evidence today.
Yes, well, good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I've just been handed a note. I just want to... I understand there's been a technical error with Ambrose Mendy's witness statement that I do need to correct. It's an important matter, as all these statements are important. What I think I'm told has happened, and I'm afraid I didn't notice it, was that when I took you to Mr. Mendy's statement, Muna El-Albani's statement was shown on the screen instead. I apologise to Mr. Mendy and everybody else, and let me put Mr. Ambrose Mendy's statement back on the screen with the reference IWS 1075. I suspect this may be my fault, as I'm not sure I read the reference into the record. Right. So can we just cover that? IWS 1075.
We got that?
No, I don't understand.
Do you think we could do this after the adjournment?
Well, I think Mr. Mendy is here and told has come specifically to hear his statement read into the record. It's immensely important to him, and I don't quite understand why it's not available. So I'm afraid we'll have to take that course. And
you have read it.
I have.
You have read it.
I have.
So Mr. Mendy has heard it read. It's true that he's obviously aware that other people have not been able to follow on the screen those parts that you've read. If it's not possible to get it up now, and I gather it's not, then I'm not sure we can do anything other than offer to get it up at a later stage.
Well, I'd rather do it to say he's aware of what we're doing. In fairness
Of course,
to him,
that's why I'm
if
saying
you do it at 2:05 as soon as we come back, it won't take very long.
Well, it'll be 2:10, but yes.
Right.
But before we rise, I think it's right that I should express gratitude to all those who've taken the time and trouble to make these statements. It must have taken a lot of effort on their part,
Yes.
and they should know that we're very grateful for the trouble they've taken, and that the whole of those statements will be taken into account as part of the evidence before the inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, that's been noted, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Well, let's see if we can overcome the technical hitch over the adjournment, and we'll sit again at 2:10.
Right.
All right?
Very
Thank you
good.
very
Thank
much.
you.